The calendar has turned to March. The Magic have matched last year's win total, and wins aren't enough. What the Magic showed us in beating the Utah Jazz and what they still have to learn as the playoffs come into focus. It's today's episode of Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Happy Free Throw Awareness Month. Today is March 1st, 2024. My name is Phil Rossman-Reich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You, of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic defeat the Utah Jazz, bailed out by the usual March heroics of Jalen Suggs, the usual heroics of Paolo, Banchero. But it's not about the win anymore, is it? Because we are a month and a half away from the playoffs, which the Magic will be playing in, the postseason they'll be playing in at least. And that is the standard we're holding the team to. We'll talk about what the Magic did and did not do in their win over the Jazz. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's great Locked On podcasts covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for. The Locked On Podcast Network, it's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. There's a lot to like about the Orlando Magic's win over the Utah Jazz. A close game, a back and forth game. The Magic couldn't hit a shot to save their lives for pretty much 3.5 quarters. And they needed a basket. They needed a big bucket. And at the end of the day, the way that this game finished is exactly how the playoffs are going to go. It's going to be a tie game or a 1-point game. The Magic are going to face possessions where they have to make shots in order to win, where they have to step up to the plate to win the game. This is part of the deal. This is part of the show. This is part of why they're in the league. And so to see Jalen Suggs hit 3 critical threes, including 2 with about 2 minutes and a minute 10 to play, to see him hit those 2 shots to expand a 1-point lead to a 7-point lead, to get big stops, get a huge block down low to keep the Magic in the lead. Like, I don't care who the opponent is. Stepping up to the plate like that in a pressure situation, that stuff matters. On a night and in a second half where the Magic were struggling to get offense and just struggling to kind of stay in the game, to see their star player playing his first game back from a 2-game absence for an illness carry the team through to get them to the finish line. 14 of 29 points from Paolo Banchero in the fourth quarter. This is what you want to see. So on one hand, the win is great. Never be disappointed with a victory. As Chuck Daly used to say, there's no such thing as an ugly win. Learn your lessons while winning. You don't need losses to learn lessons. The Magic took care of their business. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. When you look at the standings, when you open up the standings, I sent the tweet out in the morning. When you open the standings, the Magic are going to be sitting there in 6th place. They're going to be tied with the Philadelphia 76ers, at least by win percentage. Sixers have 2 games in hand. They've got 33. They've got 1 fewer win than the Magic, actually, but 1 fewer loss. They're tied with the Indiana Pacers. Those pesky Miami Heat are sitting in 8th after their loss to the Denver Nuggets on Thursday. Things are good. But, that's the thing. This is not about the game. Winning is good. Winning's great. Not going to be upset about a win. The way the Magic win matters. Because we are not playing the Utah Jazz. And this is no disrespect to the Utah Jazz. The Magic are not playing the Utah Jazz. They are playing and preparing for their future playoff opponent. We have 22 games left this season. And obviously, the number one priority in those 22 games is to win as many of them as possible. Win as many games as you can, climb as high as you can in the standings, set yourself up as best you can for that playoff series. We're all excited for it. This team is really excited for it. That's all that matters. We've made that argument. We've done that episode. All that matters is getting to that 7-game series at this point. But this is a team that's never been there before. And so everything now is about being as sharp and being as prepared as you can. Understanding who you are as a team and what is that formula for success so that you can be ready for the most important part of the season, the playoffs. The Magic are not playing their opponent. They're not playing the Utah Jazz or the Brooklyn Nets or the Detroit Pistons or whoever is in front of them. They are playing their standard. And so I jokingly asked this in November during the win streak, but now we have to seriously ask it. A win is not enough. A win is the bare minimum thing you can do. The Magic need to play Magic basketball. And that's what they didn't really do for a good chunk of the game against the Jazz. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you this was some terrible performance. You know, the Magic pulled victory out of the jaws of defeat. No, that's not the case. The Magic deserved to win the game. They made the plays down the stretch. But there were long stretches of this game, especially in the first half, especially during the second quarter when Orlando was just clowning Utah and making interior passes and getting whatever they wanted, that it felt like Orlando was going to run away with this win. That their defense was going to be strong, that the offense was popping, everyone was eating. It felt like this was going to be a blowout win. Then the Magic give up an 11-0 run to end the first half. They go to the locker room up by 2. They turn the ball over 6 times in the third quarter. They miss 10 free throws in the game. Things that they can control. Things that, eliminate and erase the good things that the Magic did in this game. And we'll get to those coming up here when we go through the box score. The Magic know what their formula for success is. Win the paint, defend at a high level, control your turnovers, make your free throws, all those things. These are things that are going to determine whether the Magic win playoff games. If the Magic came out of this one fully understanding that if we play the way we played against Utah Jazz in a playoff series, that's going to cost us a game. If the Magic go into a playoff game and miss 10 free throws, they're going to lose that game. It's going to cost them. And what was a 2-2, what could have been a 2-2 series becomes a 3-1 series. If they turn the ball over 15 times and those 15 turnovers lead to 25 points, they're going to lose that game. Like I said, Orlando did a lot of things in this one that does play to the standard. For the first time in a while, the Magic did not make 3-pointers. They were 10 for 30 in the game. And again, 3 of those came at the very end from Jalen Suggs. But the Magic won the paint 56-30. That's really good. That's really solid. They got to the line 31 times. They made only 21, but they got to the foul line. It shows their aggression. They limited shots in the paint. Utah scored only 30 points in the paint. They were 15 for 32 in the paint. They were 18 for 43 on 2-pointers. They gave up a lot of threes because of their turnovers, because of some poor rotations. Some of it because, guys the Magic wanted shooting threes, made some shots. That happens. But this is the long and short of it. Yes, there are lessons that the team had to learn. There are things this team has to improve on and has to be better at. But it's not sufficient to beat the Jazz. Again, no offense to the Jazz. They are a better team than their record. They put up a really good fight. They played really hard in this one. It is not sufficient to win the game. The Magic have to do it their way. And while, yes, They played a solid defensive game, only giving up 107 points. There's a 110.2 defensive rating, I believe. They did a lot of things right. This wasn't some disaster of a game. But the Magic, again, did little things that are going to cost them when they get to the playoffs. And the rest of this season, and certainly the rest of this stretch against teams with losing records, the Magic aren't playing their opponent. Winning is a byproduct of playing to their standard. Play to your standard, and with this team especially, you're going to win a lot more games than you lose. We're going to go through the final box score here in the second segment. We'll get to that, plus talk about the achievement the Magic accomplished, take a step back from things, and some of the pressure that they're under. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. The Magic, by the way, I believe are second best record in the league against the spread. They covered the spread. Some shots that could be important to some toward the end of that game against the Jazz. But the Magic, usually a good bet. Just something to keep in mind. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot today. FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. For your next listen, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Now also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts like me of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Let's run through the box scores. The Orlando Magic defeat the Utah Jazz 115-107. We'll use our last segment to talk a little bit about the thing that the Magic achieved, so we'll get to that coming up here in a moment. But like I said, there's a lot of things the Magic did well in this game. I don't want to seem all doom and gloom. I'm not here to throw rain on anyone's parade. Winning close games are fun. And this Magic team has been very good in close games. This team has a lot of confidence that they're going to make shots, that they're going to execute, especially when they're playing with the lead. I was actually talking with Jason Beatty of the Orlando Sentinel about this. I don't think there have been very many games, maybe that's the Denver game in Denver, where the Magic came from behind in the last 2-3 minutes to win the game. Typically, a lot of their close games, they are ahead, they're in control, they're the ones getting stops. They're a tough team to score on, and actually their clutch defensive numbers are very, very good. They're above average defensively, above their season average defensively in clutch situations. So, their issues always, can they score? Can they keep the pressure on? And they've blown some leads. The Atlanta game in Mexico City, Chicago that went to overtime that they ended up winning. The Sacramento game, they lost the lead there late too, I believe, and then also came back to force another overtime in that game. So it's not that they're not capable of coming back, but I don't want to rain on your parade. Close wins are fun. The Magic got a really nice close win. Jalen Suggs hit some just absolutely clutch shots. And, the Magic are getting a lot from Jalen Suggs here. 15 points, 5 for 8 shooting, 4 for 7 from 3. Did foul out, had 3 turnovers. We'll get to the turnovers here in a minute. But Suggs, just kind of cruising along throughout the game, and then hit a big 3 with about 3 minutes left, gave the Magic a 4-point lead. Gave those points right back with a silly foul on a contest on a challenge of Keontae George. But then the Magic got another play for him, set him up for another 3, buried it, and then he got a block on the other end. Magic set up another 3, ball swung to him, he buried it. And on a night where the Magic made only 10 of 33s and were really struggling, they made their first 2. So they were 8 for 28 the rest of the game. They were really struggling to hit even open 3s. It was a frustrating night. And the Magic do a good job making up for that by getting downhill. They didn't settle for 3s. They settled for 3s early, and that's why they didn't pull away early. But they didn't settle the rest of the game. They took open 3s when they were there. They missed them. But, and in the big moment, the big shot, Jalen Suggs just freaking deliver. Just an absolute baller. You just love the defensive effort, intensity, physicality he brings, even if he sometimes crosses the line a little bit, as far as getting fouls, not, anything dirty or anything, but just a really, really good game. The Magic don't go anywhere here without Paolo Banchero. 29 points, 10 for 16 shooting, 8 for 11 from the foul line, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. He did have 6 turnovers. We'll get to that here in a minute, but Paolo scored 14 of those 29 in the fourth quarter. He got the call early in the fourth quarter, kind of anchor that second unit, and they just put him in the low post. Taylor Hendricks guarding him. He just went to work. He got whatever shot he wanted. He was able to get to the basket, finish at the rim, get to the foul line. He was able to hit the turnaround fadeaway. He just took over the game. And there's just a confidence with him. He knows he's so confident with his mid-range jumper, especially playing. And again, no offense to Taylor Hendricks. I thought he did fight really hard defensively, but Paolo's not afraid of Taylor Hendricks as a defender. The Utah's doubles were late. He was able to spin baseline a lot, get away from the pressure, and score at the rim. Just a really solid game. Paolo, though, did get himself into trouble, and he admitted after the game that after missing 2 games with the illness, his decision-making was a little bit off. He did try and force passes. I love that he's unselfish. I've said this a million times. I'd rather teach him to be selfish than unselfish. I think it's easier when you have an unselfish player that you need to be more selfish rather than a selfish player who needs to be more unselfish. I think it's just easier to teach a player to be like, hey, it's okay, go get your own. Paolo's still learning this mix. And so obviously he makes mistakes. He was trying to make some crazy Luka type passes, and a lot of them didn't work. Got stuck a few times. Just a lot of them didn't work. But I do love I do love the mindset of it. I do love the mindset. I do love the ideas. I don't think not that he's crazy. They were bad passes, and they were very clearly just kind of bad, like off one foot, fading away, cross-court passes that are those are easy to pick, even from bad defenses. Paolo just carried the team offensively for such a long time, and that part is obviously important. Gary Harris, a solid game, 13 points, 5 for 8 shooting, 3 for 6 from deep. He had 2 3-pointers in the first quarter. The Magic have a very good record when he hits threes. So good to see Gary Harris get going there. Franz Wagner, 14 points, 6 for 11 shooting, 0 for 4 from 3, 3 rebounds, 6 assists. He did have 4 turnovers as well as 2 blocks. Franz struggled to get going. He made some tough finishes around the basket. The 3-pointer not falling, his inability to get to the foul line, really frustrated him. He was only 2 for 2 from the foul line. Not hitting threes, I think, hurt him too. But Franz, obviously a huge piece of this team. Just struggling to get him downhill. Utah's a big team. They didn't have their shot blocker in Walker Kessler, but they're a big team, and I do think that size bugged him a little bit, perhaps. But some of it's just Franz got to be more aggressive. Again, rather teach an unselfish player to be selfish. I think we're all waiting for Franz to just have that light click on and be like, okay, take over. It's your turn. He had one play that I absolutely loved. He was getting manhandled a little bit physically. He was clearly frustrated with the refs. He even stopped the game because he was bleeding on his arm, and he was like pointing at it like directly at the ref to get him to stop play. And it was just kind of a look of like, hey, no foul? Like, seriously? And so he got the ball against Taylor Hendricks. Hendricks was a little late rotating. Franz just took him straight to the basket, dunked all over him. Sorry for the UCF rookie there. But Franz, we need to get Franz angry and aggressive. Mo Wagner, always angry and aggressive. 14 points, 6 for 7 shooting, 10 rebounds for Mo. Mo was awesome in this game. I love how quick his decision-making is. I love how aggressive he is. He's never going to back down. He's always going to attack the basket. There's just no hesitation with anything he does. And, that is a contrast right now to Wendell Carter. Wendell really struggled in this game. 6 points, 5 rebounds, 2 for 6 shooting. 2 for 5 from the foul line. It was a rough game, and Wendell just looked out of it, for lack of a better way to say it. He was passive. He was not looking to score, which is not what you want to see from him. I still really am a believer in Wendell Carter. I still think he's their best overall center option, but he's got to be aggressive. Everyone on this team's got to be aggressive. You can't play passive with what's at stake for the Magic. And I thought Wendell was just slow to everything. He was just reacting really slowly to everything. Orlando shoots 54.5% from the floor. They get 56 points in the paint, 28 of 42 from the paint. Usually big signs that the Magic are going to win. If they get more than 55 points in the paint, they usually win. That's usually a sign of how they're aggressive. 31 free throw attempts, again, 21 of 31 from the foul line, so missed a lot of free throws. Turnovers, 15 turnovers for 25 points for the Jazz. That was killer. That hurt this team. Again, did the Jazz just punish the Magic for every single one of their mistakes? They led directly to the baskets, led directly to three-pointers. Utah was able to hit 16 of 37 threes. That's 43.2%. So even though Utah wasn't able to get downhill, wasn't able to get in the paint, wasn't able to score around the basket, those three-pointers kept them in the game, and they just had long stretches where they just didn't miss. And Orlando was a little late rotating out to them. Orlando had to find that disruption again. They found it in the fourth quarter after really not playing well defensively in the second and third quarters. They found it. You could see the energy from the Magic pick up in the fourth quarter when they knew it was winning time, and ultimately they delivered the win. Utah has three players with 19 points: John Collins, Keontae George, and Colin Sexton, all with 19. John Collins had 10 rebounds. Keontae George had 9 assists. Lauri Markkanen had 18 points with 4 3-pointers to lead the Jazz as well. They get to the line 28 times. Big reason why Utah was able to win the third quarter. Orlando put them on the line for 10 free throw attempts. Look, the game was really physical at the start, and the refs started calling a lot of things that they didn't necessarily call in the first half. Throughout the second half, Magic were a little late to adjust, and they were kind of caught with a lot of fouls, and that really hurt them and allowed Utah to get back into the game. The Orlando Magic, though, come out on top thanks to Jalen Suggs' clutch shooting. They win 115-107. It is their 34th win of the season. So when we come back, we're going to take a step back and we're going to reflect on how this team has grown a little bit and what it means to tie their season total from last year this early in the season. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at PrizePicks. I'm a little heartbroken today for our friends over at PrizePicks. I put a PrizePicks entry in for Thursday's games. It's a sad day because here in the state of Florida, PrizePicks has had to suspend operations, which sucks for us here in Florida. But elsewhere, it's depriving us of the best daily fantasy game out there. I don't know. I think some of their competitors actually were also put on ice here in Florida. Hopefully that changes soon, because when I play daily fantasy, I play PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easy way to play daily fantasy. There's no weird scoring systems. There's no huge player pools. There's no hoping that you get your money back. It's literally just you versus the numbers. It is your skill, not anything else, that allows you to win in PrizePicks. PrizePicks offers so many great deals. They have the Demon and Goblins going on right now, where you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks, turning $10 into $1,000. Demons and Goblins are the newest and most exciting way to play at PrizePicks. Those squares are marked with little red demons or green goblins to get you different payouts. And you can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. And again, it sucks that they're no longer in Florida. So please, please, please let them back in. This is the best daily fantasy game, the best daily fantasy experience you will have. And frankly, I am very sad that I won't be able to play them in my home state anymore. It was awesome. So if you can, unfortunately, some states don't allow them, but if you can, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. I think it's really important this year that we enjoy the ride. I deal with plenty of trolls on social media, and there was one guy that was just like, "What are you doing?" Just complaining and saying, "Why are we excited about this? They're going to lose in the first round anyway." And it was just like, so what? That's part of the journey. It's part of the path that this team has taken. The 2007 Magic, Dwight Howard's first playoff series, they got swept by the Detroit Pistons. And it didn't matter what the end result was. And so I'll repeat what I say a lot about the NBA season. Yes, we care about who wins the championship. Yes, we care about results, but it's not the results that make the season. It's the journey of it. And, Mo Wagner's been really great about saying this, and Mo Wagner's had great perspective on this. This season, the success the Magic are experiencing did not start in September at training camp. It started 2 years ago when Jamal Mosley arrived. This has been an extended journey. This has been a process to get just to this point. And it's, the roster, the team certainly believes it is going to continue to build and evolve from here. It's this reason why it's so important to take a step back sometimes and recognize this growth, because Thursday's win over the Utah Jazz brought the Magic to 34-26. The Orlando Magic on February 29th, 2024 have matched their win total from the 2023 season. They won 34 games last year. The Magic have won 34 games with 22 to play this year. That is incredible growth. It is measurable growth. It is, as I said at the All-Star break, the Magic have accomplished so many of their goals already. If you look at the standings today, the Magic are tied for 5th with the Philadelphia 76ers. They're behind on win percentage. They're tied with Indiana for 6th. They're tied with their game back of New York for 5th. Sorry, they're tied for 4th. Excuse me. Their game back of New York for 4th. They're a half game ahead of the Miami Heat. With 22 games to play, we are in the midst of what is going to be an intense playoff chase. We are in the midst of what is going to be a 22-game run where every game is going to feel pressure. Every game is going to matter. Every loss is going to feel heavy, just as every win is going to feel uplifting. And while looking at the standings every day is probably not good for your health, we will be able to look at the standings and see the consequences of these results in real time. And at the end of the day, with these 22 games remaining, the Magic control a lot of their own destiny. That was not the case last year, of course. Last year, the Magic were trying to make up ground. They got off to the 5-20 start. They were trying to just kind of nibble on the edges of just the play-in, let alone the playoffs. This team has come a long way. For us to sit here and not upset about a win, but to be critical in a win, that is growth. That is an evolution. And it's important, I think, to understand that. Pressure is a privilege. It is one of the great cliches in sports. Pressure is a privilege. This team did not have this pressure last year. They have earned the pressure this year. They have put themselves in a position where what they do and where they finish is going to be open to criticism. Every game, every moment is going to feel the weight of what it will do to the ultimate outcome of their season. Now, I would still argue in the bigger scheme of things, this season isn't filled with that much pressure. To simply make the playoffs, to simply play a 7-game series is victory enough. Like Dwight Howard and Jameer Nelson and Hedo Turkoglu back in 2007, getting just that taste of playoff intensity and understanding what it's going to take, not just to reach there, but to succeed there, to have some idea of what it takes to succeed there. That is goal enough. That is going to be instructive and help this team enough. But this group is not going to be satisfied with that. That is not enough for this group. Because I said it during the 9-game win streak, be greedy. Just because the Magic are where they're at and it's unexpected that they're where they're at, doesn't mean they don't belong. And if there is something that the Magic can draw out, if there's something that the Magic can do in these next 22 games, it's further proof that they belong. This is not a 34-win team anymore. We've completely changed how we discuss this team and what matters with this team. This is a playoff team. I'm saying it. Like, again, at this point, not playing a 7-game series would be a disappointment. Making the play-ins, whatever, but losing in the play-in tournament, that would almost be unacceptable. It won't make the season a failure, but it would be unacceptable. Because this is a playoff team. And if you're not believing it yet, believe it now. The Magic at match last year's win total. They're going to blow away their win total from last year. They're going to improve on it by 10 games. 10 and 12 would be a disappointment. If they win just 44 games, that would honestly be a little bit of a disappointment for the season. This Magic team has earned all of it. And they've got 22 more games to prove where they belong in the Eastern Conference. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast and Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of them sell podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And, of course, check us out on YouTube as well. Search for Locked On Magic or go to youtube.com/@LockedOnMagic. Remember, you can check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, for more Magic content, as well as special treats as well, including my video breaking down Franz Wagner's play in the games against the Brooklyn Nets and the Atlanta Hawks. You can check that out again at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. And as always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to us, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now available on Amazon Fire TV and the Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available in the free Fire TV channels app. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. For our next episode of Locked On Magic, we'll be back Sunday night, Monday morning to chat about the Magic's game against the Detroit Pistons. It's March. Happy Free Throw Awareness Month. We'll be hitting some draft topics as well next week. I'm very behind on my draft work. So we're going to play some catch up on that next week. Since it is March, happy Free Throw Awareness Month once again. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.